We are now in the end stages of the standard crypto 4-year cycle. We are also about to enter the Voltaire era of Cardano. And with respect to both, you need to be aware that Cardano is now yours to lose. If you have no idea what Cardano has to do with a trap full of lobsters, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Okay, guys, I'm not going to lie. I feel a little bit of a moral duty for us to have the following discussion, and it has multiple layers. 2 layers to be specific. Multiple layers, but we're going to discuss 2 layers of this topic. So, I've mentioned this in the last month or so. I've mentioned a concept that I think Raoul Pal, who I know is not everybody's favorite in crypto, because he was, he talked a lot about a certain ecosystem, the what didn't turn out so great, maybe. And he's not exactly a huge, doesn't seem to be a huge, Cardano doesn't seem to be a huge favorite of his. So, anyways, Raoul Pal, maybe a lot of people in crypto, not their favorite. Cardano, maybe not his favorite, but he probably put this best. And I'm the type of person, I think ideas are important. Even if somebody else has had terrible ideas, even if they're not a fan of the things that I'm a fan of, if they have a great idea, I'm going to steal their idea. I'm going to use their idea. I'm going to think about their idea. And he said something, I think it's an idea that everybody has in their head already, but they probably forget how important it is. And the way he put it was very succinct and the the most eloquent way to put it. He basically said, and I'm going to paraphrase here because this is going to be on YouTube and I can't use the exact words he used, but he basically said, look, we're in the last part of the crypto cycle. The crypto cycle, we've talked about many times on this channel. Everybody in crypto talks about it every 4 years. We have the Bitcoin halving, the Bitcoin blockchain reward gets cut in half. It has an effect on the entire ecosystem. We talk about it all the time. You already know about it. But he made a good point. He said, hey, look, we're in the end stages here of this happening cycle. Don't mess it up. He put it more colorfully. I can't say it that way because we're on YouTube, but he put it more colorfully. But he basically said, don't mess it up. The whole goal, and I'm going to say the whole goal over the next 24 months, because we all kind of know the Bitcoin halving happens, and then somewhere between 11 and 18 months, something like that, at some point after the Bitcoin halving event, which is probably going to happen in April, at some point in the following year, usually some good things happen to the rest of the crypto world, to Bitcoin too, but the rest of the crypto world. It's like the climax, it's the peak, it's the big thing that everybody's waiting for every 4 years. This happens so far. This has happened like every 4 years, and sometimes an ecosystem screws up and they miss out. It doesn't happen for them because they make some huge mistake and they get overlooked, and that could happen at any point in Cardano. So nothing's guaranteed. This is crypto. Nothing's guaranteed. Everything's a gamble. Nothing is promised. You don't deserve anything. You just might get lucky. That's how crypto works. But we're in the end stages. If history continues this pattern of good things happening to crypto every 4 years after the Bitcoin halving event, you know, in the past, it's been, like 11 months, 17 months, and 18 months. By my count, I could have counted wrong. I'm sure some chart aficionado is going to have some different count, but by my count, it's been about, that many months after the Bitcoin halving, good things are happening in crypto. Everything is going great in crypto. That means in the next 24 months, bad things will also come to crypto. And in fact, bad things have come to crypto just recently in Cardano specifically. We had a big rug event. It was a rug that everybody was really excited about. And I mean, people use that word rug very loosely and to mean different things. In this case, it sounds like maybe one of their developers made off with a bunch of the ADA. But it brings me back to my original point. And I did say there were multiple layers of this. We're also going to talk about the other layer, which is Voltaire happening this year, it sounds like. Sounds like Voltaire is coming this year. And this is another way in which Cardano is yours to lose. As a community, Cardano is ours to lose via Voltaire. We can make great things happen, or it's ours to lose. We're going to talk about that in a second. But first, we're going to talk about the personal level. We're going to go from the macro, Cardano being the communities to lose, to the micro, Cardano being yours to lose. If you listen to this channel, you probably own some ADA. And over the next 24 months, sorry, it could be that good things happen to all of us in Cardano, but there will be a lot of bad things that come to visit us too. There will be rugs. There will be robbery forest events. There will be a lot of people out to separate you from your ADA. I've said this many times before. If you listen to this channel, you already know this. You already know what this thumbnail's about. But for those of you who've never heard this, I'm just going to say it really quickly. I'm sorry to bore everybody who's heard it a million times, but I'm going to say it really quickly. Your ADA are not unlike a bunch of happy little lobsters. Happy little lobsters crawling around on the ocean floor, occasionally swimming, frolicking, if you will, at the bottom of the ocean, having a great time, doing fun little lobster things. All the lobsters are smiling. They're all smiling and happy. And then one lobster on the edge of the group, the stupidest lobster, he sees a warm, cozy cave. It's a little bit different than any cave he's ever seen. He's probably stayed in a lot of different caves, but this cave is a little different, but it looks warm and cozy. And he's like, I'm going to go in there. That looks awesome. And then the second stupidest lobster also goes into the cave. Why? Because he saw the first lobster go in there and he's like, I don't want to miss out on a super warm, cozy little lobster cave. I'm going to crawl in there too. And then the third stupidest lobster crawls in there. And then another lobster and another lobster and another lobster until the cave is jam-packed with lobsters. Then there's your little ADA lobsters. They're on the ocean floor. And you see that a lot of other little ADA lobsters have crawled into that warm, cozy little cave. And you're like, maybe my little ADA lobster should get in there too. Should I tell them to get in there too? Maybe I should tell them to get in there. Like, I don't think they're the stupidest lobsters in the whole lobster pack, but maybe they should get in there. Everybody else is in there. Maybe they should go in. This is where you must say, no, do not go into the cave, because you don't know if it's a cave or something else. And when you don't go in there, what often happens is the same thing that happened with this rug, possible rug, alleged rug that just recently happened in Cardano and did involve some number of, I won't even get into it. But let's just say a lot of people allegedly are victims of this rug. Let's put it that way. Because that warm, cozy cave where all the other lobsters look like they're having so much fun, sometimes it's a warm, cozy cave, but other times it's a lobster trap. All of a sudden, the cave starts moving upwards in the water column, and it's attached to a rope. And that rope is attached to a boat. And that boat has fishermen on it, lobster fishermen. Their whole goal is to get your little ADA lobsters. And if you don't put them in that cave, if you never let them go into those warm, cozy caves, if you never let them go in there, you never suffer this fate where all of a sudden the whole cave, you suddenly realize it's a trap. And that lobster fisherman is pulling it up on the boat. And those little ADA lobsters, they're on the boat now. They're no longer yours. They're going to go away with the boat. They're going to turn into lobster bisque or something like that. They're going to be dipped in drawn butter. They are going to be separated from their owners, never to be seen again. Your whole goal over the next 24 months should be to not let this kind of thing happen. And a lobster trap, it can be intentional. It could be a thief trying to separate you from your lobster. What is the old saying? A fool and his gold are easily parted, something like that. You don't want to be that fool. Don't be the dumbest lobster in the pack. Don't be the 100th dumbest lobster in the pack. Be the smartest lobster in the pack who doesn't go in the cave, because the whole goal over the next 24 months is to keep your ADA lobsters. Because historically, and we don't know if this is going to happen, it might happen, it might not, but historically, really good things have happened a certain number of months after the Bitcoin halvening event. You want to have all your ADA lobsters. You want to own all those ADA lobsters when that happens. You want to have a lot of ADA when that happens so that you can then turn it into things, other things you want to own. You want to be at that high point so you can turn it into other things you want to own. You don't want to be parted with your ADA lobsters. So how do you do this? You keep it on your hardware wallet. It's that simple. People are like, "Hey, how do you avoid rugs? How come you never get rugged? How come you weren't a part of this? How come you weren't a part of that?" It's because I have a rule. I want to keep my ADA lobsters, so I myself imitate a lobster. A lobster has a strong claw. It's a strong, greedy claw. Once the lobster gets a hold of something it wants to eat, it uses its super strong claw to keep a hold of that. It doesn't release the lobster claw. That's how I am too. My ADA, I get it. I'm greedy. I'm greedy for ADA. When I get ADA, it goes onto my hardware wallet. Whatever you use. If you like ledgers, I have ledgers. If you like ledgers, great. If you have some other hardware wallet, great. But you put your ADA on your hardware wallet and then you hold the lobster claw tight. You don't let go. You don't give it to these projects with anonymous devs. You don't give it to these projects with, devs or project leaders who you've never heard of, no matter who's going in there. Even if the most famous Cardano influencers are going into that lobster trap, you just don't go in there. You don't go in there. Why? Because you want to keep your ADA lobsters. So you don't give them to anybody else. You don't lock your ADA. If you don't want to lose it, you don't lock it with somebody else. Because how much do you trust that person? Some of the biggest platforms in crypto have been hacked. The biggest bridges have been hacked. The biggest projects with a lot of ADA locked have been hacked. The original biggest project, the Ethereum DAO, what happened to it? Quickly hacked. The robbery forest is expansive. We hope that we don't fall victim to that as often in Cardano. We hope that functional programming and Haskell and Plutus, we hope these things make us a hard target, but it will happen. There will be robbery forest incidents in Cardano. There will be more rugs. We've had rugs and thefts in the past, even just recently, apparently, allegedly. We're going to have more. Don't lock your ADA with anybody. I know that DeFi is so tempting. You want to get those sweet, sweet DeFi ducats. You're like, give them to me. You're telling your girl at night, you're going to bed at night, putting your head on your pillow, and your girl, she's trying to think about, girl things. Or if you're a woman, your guy, he's thinking about guy things, and you're telling him like, oh baby, I'm gonna get those sweet, sweet DeFi ducats. I'm gonna turn my, I'm gonna turn my 100 ADA. I'm gonna turn my 100 ADA into 100,000 ADA. I'm gonna buy you all those sweet, sweet girl things, or sweet, sweet man things you want. I don't know. I don't want you ADA ladies are telling your men you're gonna buy them. Probably like, ADA, you take the ADA and turn it into guns or cars for them, something like that. Is just the opposite with your girlfriends if you're a guy. You're talking about all the great things. Girl, I'm gonna take you on a vacation, with my ADA, my ADA monies. And I'm gonna do it by getting those sweet, sweet DeFi ducats. And that's fine. That impulse is fine. I think we all have it. However, don't lock your ADA any place it can get stolen, because unless you built that platform, you don't really know how rigorously it was built. And I know your counter argument, AOS, but there are audits. Guess what? Even audited platforms have had problems. Even audited platforms sometimes become victims of the robbery forest. So, whatever you did during the bear market, whatever you did during crypto winter, you might have taken crazy risks during crypto winter. What I'm here to say today is don't do that now, because things are going to get real hot. You know, those numbers, they might change. Those numbers right now that are like pretty interesting, they might get really interesting in the next 24 months. And that's going to bring all the thieves. There are going to be bands of thieves that are going to descend on ADA, going to descend on Cardano, going to descend on all of crypto. And their only goal is to separate you from your ADA lobsters. So keep the lobster claw tight. If you are some kind of degen and you must lock some portion of your ADA with somebody else, because you're telling your girl or your guy you're going to take them on that cruise or whatever it is you're into, whatever they're into. Do it with a tiny portion you wouldn't want to lose. If you're going to buy some stupid NFT that's going to go up in value and then plummet to the bottom of the values, like it's made of lead, plummet to the bottom of the charts. If you're going to do that, Do it with an amount you wouldn't mind losing. And don't do it with your main bag. Go and buy new ADA. Take dollars or euros or yen, whatever you're using in your neck of the woods, and buy new ADA. And then use that new ADA to buy that stupid thing you want to buy that you're probably going to lose money on, that you're FOMOing into. Why should you buy new ADA? Because then you feel the pain. If you just use your main bag of ADA, there's no pain, and you might do it over and over again until your main bag is gone. But if you have to buy new ADA to buy this stupid speculative thing that's really a gamble, that's really a lottery, if you're going to buy something stupid, do it with new ADA so you feel the pain of losing actual fiat dollars. And I know we all think that our crypto is worth more than fiat. Fiat is a stupid thing. You should be more willing to lose your fiat, but you're going to feel the real world pain if you have to buy new ADA and then use that ADA to buy this stupid new thing you want to buy. Do that instead of using your main bag, because what happens to a lot of people over the next 24 months of every cycle is they use their main bag to buy all these things that they've been telling their significant other when they lay their heads down on the pillow every night. They've been telling them that's how they're going to get all that monies, all those big monies, all those long dollars, all those long euros, those long yens. They're going to do it by buying these stupid ultra speculative things. That sure they could, some of those things are going to 1000x, but a lot of them aren't. So use your new ADA to do those things. Don't use your main bag. Hold on to your main bag with your strong lobster claw. Your whole job over the next 24 months is not to lose your ADA lobsters. Here's the second layer of the onion, guys. Voltaire is coming, and we can totally screw it up. Cardano is ours to lose as a community. Your ADA is yours to lose as an individual, but Cardano is ours to lose as a community as well, because we're going to run this thing. Voltaire means the community is going to run the ecosystem, which is a great and wonderful thing, and it must happen. It's good that it's happening. It provides us with the opportunity to destroy ourselves as well. Here's Matthew Capps summing up how this is going to work. Very, very high level, but I think this is a good summation of what's actually happening. He says, my 2 cents, Intersect, the MBO, which is a members-based organization, is a forum for public service by and for ecosystem members, providing the secondary infrastructure to make governance healthy. SIP 1694 is the basic on-chain law of minimum viable governance. SanchoNet is a testnet version of Cardano where 1694 is already live. So most of you probably already know this, but SanchoNet is running and people are doing things like practicing to be DREPs. These will be, to put it pessimistically, the politicians of the Cardano ecosystem. I hate to characterize them that way, but I think we all know that's what this is. There are representatives who will be hopefully acting on the best interests of the community. But this is where we can screw up. I think this will go really, really well if the Cardano ecosystem does well what it's always done well. And that's be engaged, be the strongest pound for pound community, the strongest pound for pound ecosystem in all of crypto. Our community is so strong. It's ultra engaged. We're all super smart. I think I had a hard time saying this in the first couple of years of Cardano, but slowly, my confidence grew in saying that the people involved in Cardano are super smart. There's a lot of super smart people in the Cardano community. I think as a community, the IQ level is very high. The sophistication level is very high, and I am very, very hopeful that we're going to make all the right decisions. But we actually have to pay attention and be engaged. We can't be like the American electorate. No offense, USA, but the US electorate, not very engaged, not very informed, not very up to date. They don't even know which candidates represent which positions. They just don't know. They're not engaged. They're not, I think the average person in Cardano is much smarter than the average person just running around, possibly voting in liberal Western democracies or any kind of nation state, really. I think we're smarter than the average people because you somehow made it all the way to Cardano. I think that's like a good filter. It means that we're probably smarter as an ecosystem, but we also need to be engaged. We need to pay attention. I think if we pay attention and we don't get caught up in the crazy momentum of that's sometimes created on social media. If we don't FOMO into decisions, if we carefully, objectively, scientifically look at all the different possible decisions, I think it's going to go great. But Cardano is ours to lose. Be aware that if we're not engaged and we don't vote and we don't do all the things we need to do, this isn't like Catalyst. Like, Catalyst is kind of crazy and it seems like it's hard to figure out if your vote is going to matter. And it's like you see some of the results of the voting and you're like, I can't believe people voted for that. I think this is a little more important. I mean, there's a lot of money at stake in Catalyst and it's important too, but this is really important. Like, when these votes come up as to what strategic direction Cardano should go in, this is going to be really important. This isn't just going to mean that a stupid project gets funded, you know, where some much more meritorious project is not going to get funded. This might be things that make or break the future of the Cardano ecosystem. I know project funding could also, but this is going to be some pretty crucial stuff. So we all need to be engaged. Cardano is ours to lose with Voltaire because we're going to be running Cardano. We've got to be smart. We've got to make smart decisions. We can't just sort of like coast and like go in whatever direction the wind is blowing the crowd. We've got to be those outliers who actually think for themselves, think objectively, and don't just follow what the masses seem to want to do. We've all got to individually think about it and make the best decisions as a community. You may not be aware, we have a magazine in Cardano, and it's called the Cardano Solution. And the new issue just came out. Cardano Solution, one click compliance. It looks like the headline piece here is an interview with Dr. Navit Dhaliwal. This is the Q4 2023 edition. And because this is crypto and this is Cardano, of course, it comes to you in the form of an NFT. So the first question you probably have is, how much is this? So let me make a point here. I think it's great when we use blockchains for what they're supposed to be for, right? I mean, we do a lot of speculation stuff on blockchains, and certainly NFTs are a big part of that. There's a lot of NFT speculation. That's not what I'm presenting here. What I'm presenting you here with is an actual magazine. This is a magazine. This is not something for you to invest in. This is an actual magazine. Like back in the old days, you go to the grocery store or the drugstore or corner store, and they had a whole rack of these things called magazines. I don't even know if those exist anymore. I assume they still have them. I think I've seen them in the grocery store. But this is a real magazine. As far as I know, this is an actual magazine. It just doesn't come in paper format because this is crypto. It's Cardano. It comes to you in the form of an NFT. So this is not some kind of investment for you. This is an NFT with actual utility. You're going to get a magazine and you're going to read the magazine. And if you're in Cardano, it's probably going to have stuff that's interesting to you. So don't think of this as any kind of investment. It's not. It's a magazine, but it is an NFT. And the NFT, of course, has a price. It's only 25 ADA. What is that? Like 12 and a half, 12 and a half bucks, 12 and a quarter bucks. It's pretty cheap. This is a $12 magazine for you right now. I mean, this may change. The price of ADA, obviously going up and down versus the dollar at all times. This is crypto. This is how it works. So the price may not be exactly 12 and a half, 12 and a quarter. It's 25 ADA, whatever that is on the day you decide to buy this magazine. But it's a magazine in Cardano. It's gonna have Cardano stuff in it. It's great. We should read Cardano magazines. So full disclosure, they did give me one page inside the magazine for free. They just gave me a page. They said, hey, you can have a page in the magazine. So I put a picture. There's a graphic and it says Army of Spies. That's it. But I did get it for free. So full disclosure. But anyways, Cardano Solution. It's a Cardano magazine. You can pick it up for 25 ADA. How do you get this thing? You can get the Cardano Solution by going to Noom. That's recordstore.noom.io. So recordstore.newm.io. Recordstore.noom.io. And if you go over here, you'll notice there's other stuff in Cardano you can buy. Here is a Nito album. Is this an album? One song? I don't know. But looks like maybe this is a single, but you can get Nito songs. You can get crime fighter songs. You can get all kinds of other songs. Look at this media. This is all stuff you can do in Cardano that has real utility. I assume most of these are songs. You can actually listen to songs via Cardano. It's actual utility inside the Cardano ecosystem. And right at the top of the list right now is the Cardano solution. Wait, guys, hold up, stop everything, stop the presses. It turns out I was totally wrong. Here's this post from a maximalist of another ecosystem or other ecosystems, plural, probably more likely, but somebody who doesn't like Cardano for sure. So his post is going to explain why I've been wrong about everything all this time. Not specifically me, but all of us in Cardano have just been completely wrong. It turns out there's a very simple explanation for why Cardano is in the top 10, and it has nothing to do with any merit. It's actually something bad. We're actually in the top 10 for a bad reason. So here's what happened. He made this post on January 1st, 2023, and he made a whole bunch of predictions about 2023. And one of his predictions, number 18, was this is how little he cares about Cardano. We only made number 18. Cardano finally drops out of the top 10. Well, recently he made a post. He's like, oh, wow, I was wrong. This was my most criticized prediction of the year because the Cardano ecosystem, the Cardano community is the strongest pound for pound in all of crypto. This was my most criticized prediction of the year. Check the retweets and comments. Seemingly, it upsets the Cardano community to no end that I said this. Some nice self-aggrandizement there. I'll write a long form tweet below that goes into some theories behind this blunder. So you actually need theories. It's not just that he was wrong. You actually need theories to explain this blunder. It's actually much more complicated. It's not really that he was wrong. It's just that there's this crazy phenomenon going on that it's actually a bad reason why Cardano can't drop out of the top 10. So I, as many other people, have been confused about the high market cap and ranking of Cardano relative to other projects, considering the relatively small imprint it has on the crypto industry at large. And we've talked many times on this channel about the reasons why I would characterize that as highly inaccurate. So, anyways, he says this article by Sebastian, one of the most distinguished builders in Cardano, published 5 days ago, sheds some light on something that I think very few people in crypto know about. The article reveals 4 interesting facts. Nearly 70% of the ADA supply was handed out in the Genesis block. Normally something we would call very, very good. Very good. All of the crypto is sort of handed out right at the beginning, right? It's like we've got staking. We've got a great proof of stake system in Cardano Ouroboros, and it does a great job of parceling out the rest of it. But there's not this gigantic overhang in Cardano where they're only going to give the public, like 10% of the amount that is going to exist. And then they give, themselves and a bunch of VCs, like 60%. And then the remaining 30% is what, kind of leaks out. Instead, Cardano 70% went out in the Genesis block, a little bit to IOHK, a little bit to the Cardano Foundation, a little bit to Emergo. And that percentage was very small. What is it? Under 20%, I think like 18% or something went out to the founding entities, and the rest of it goes out to the public, none to VCs. But to him, this is one of the interesting facts because he says 94.8% of ADA voucher holders who participate in the sale are Japanese. One of the genius bits of the Cardano ICO, which I've talked about many times on this channel, is that the ICO was done in Japan and the buyers were all in Asia. None of them were US buyers, as far as I know. He even says here 94.8% were Japanese buyers. It was done under Japanese law in Japan. The buyers were Japanese. As of the year 20,232, that's pretty far in the future, but okay. Crypto capital gains are still taxed as miscellaneous income in Japan, meaning they are taxed as income tax up to 55%. And further, direct ADA to Japanese yen conversion is rare and limited after multiple Japanese government cracked down on crypto following large exchange hacks. You can see what he's doing here. He's explaining the real reason Cardano hasn't fallen out of the top 10 is that there's this giant tax on Cardano, and direct ADA to Japanese yen conversion is limited because of government crackdowns. So actually, we were wrong. We got to pack it in, guys. We've got to pack it in. Forget about ADA. We were wrong about everything. Actually, the reason Cardano has stayed in the top 10 is because a bunch of dudes in Japan haven't been able to sell their ADA. They haven't been able to sell their ADA. That's what's going on. We've all just been deluding ourselves in the Western world into thinking there is some merit in Cardano. It's actually just This phenomenon, a bunch of dudes in Japan haven't been able to sell their ADA. Of course, we know that is not an accurate telling of what's actually going on, because all of the ADA we now hold in the Western world, it got over here somehow. And it wasn't just IOHK and Emergo and the Cardano Foundation, like, selling their share into the Western world. There's been some selling. Some of this initial ICO ADA has been sold. How do we know that? Because they went through multiple cycles where they saw fantastic gains. The people who bought in this original ICO saw fantastic gains. Believe me, they sold. Sure, might tax, and I mean, it wasn't just Japan. A lot of it, there were multiple tranches of the sale. And if you go to the Cardano Foundation website, they have a whole page. I think it's like, the Cardano Foundation website /Genesis. You can find the page where they explain exactly what countries were involved in the sale. Most of it was Japan, but there were other Asian countries. There were multiple tranches, and they have a very great breakdown of exactly what happened in the ICO. And the ICO buyers bought at a low price, like people often did in ICO purchases back in those days. And we've gone through a couple of cycles already, a couple of those parabolic highs. And believe me, dudes in Japan found ways to sell their ADA. This is not why Cardano is still in the top 10. Cardano is still in the top 10 because of relentless, painstaking development, because of the development of the strongest pound for pound community in all of crypto, because of extremely rigorous academic research, and then the translation of that extremely rigorous academic research into actual technology being used in our blockchain. That's why Cardano is in the top 10. Obviously, a lot of us in Cardano will see a post like that, the one I just showed you, and think to themselves, this is just a, a proponent of another blockchain ecosystem trying to convince people there's something misleading about Cardano. But actually, that's something that a lot of people are saying about a different blockchain ecosystem right now. And that story is sort of told in a couple of different tweets here. It starts with something like this. This is one of those videos where they show, sort of the changing, dominance of different players in a certain niche or industry. They show this. You've seen all kinds of these, like different car manufacturers, their share of the global car market, that kind of thing. And it's kind of cool. You can see the graph sort of changing, over the years. So this one shows Solana. At the end, it shows Solana. Like January 1st, 2024, shows Solana with this commanding lead over Tron. So Solana USDC with a commanding lead over Tron, Tether, Ethereum Tether, Ethereum USDC, Ethereum DAI, BNB Chain, Tether, Arbitrum, USDC, that kind of thing. So Solana ends up on top at the end with this fantastic looking lead. This all looks great. But here's the alleged misleading part. So this post says, of course, in 2018, Forbes called stablecoins the holy grail of cryptocurrency. Today, the stablecoin market is worth over 130 billion. And if you're Solana, you love to see this kind of thing. And in fact, the poster here says, oh, that was a 45-second lead up to a beautiful last 5 seconds. The last 5 seconds are where Solana takes this awesome commanding lead in terms of stablecoin volume. As it often turns out in crypto, that claim may not have been all it was cracked up to be. This poster said, decided to look at the chain. There has been a total of 120 billion of USDC transfers over the last week. More than 90% of that is by 9 accounts. Literally every single one of them are Phoenix market makers. Phoenix does not have a volume of 120 billion. So this is a problem. If 90%, first of all, it's a problem that only 9 accounts are supposed to account for 90% of the 120 billion in transfers. Then you find out they're all market makers that are a part of, I'm guessing this is a platform in Solana. I don't actually know because I don't know anything about Solana beyond their on and off feature. He says Phoenix does not have a volume of 120 billion. This is kind of problematic because if 90% of the 120 billion is happening on this platform should have a volume of at least 90% of this amount. But he's saying that's not the case. He says this number is heavily inflated by creating and canceling orders that are never filled. Please don't take USDC volume seriously. So here we see what happens quite often in crypto. So we've got someone, last week claiming that Cardano's position in the top 10 has always been misleading. But actually, what we find out here is that things as simple and verifiable as on chain volume are being claimed and turning out to be misleading because people are doing something that's very obvious, a very obvious nefarious scheme. If you are trying to promote a platform in crypto, would be to create and cancel orders on that platform and then allow those to appear to be volume. Obviously, if you just create and cancel orders ad nauseum, ad infinitum, then you can make your volume look as big as you want, as big as you can, create orders and cancel them. But there's no actual economic force behind a created and canceled order. It's not real volume. It's just an illusion. You might remember previously on this channel, we talked about that period in time when the SEC or some regulators or rumblings that somebody, I believe the rumors were the SEC, were talking to Uniswap Labs. And all of a sudden we saw all the synthetics were removed from the front end that was being run by Uniswap Labs. Obviously, Uniswap, the protocol, has multiple front ends being run by different people. And the synthetics didn't necessarily disappear from the protocol in general because some people kept it on their front end, but Uniswap Labs suddenly removed all the synthetics from their front end. This was quite some time ago. You may remember this. But when that happened, it became clear that if that was true, that if the SEC was talking to Uniswap, that meant something that was should have probably already been obvious to everyone, that the SEC was already thinking about DEXs. This is the biggest original DEX, the big original DEX, Uniswap. The SEC was talking to them about synthetics, or it appeared they were talking to them about synthetics, and something caused Uniswap Labs to remove it from their version of a front end for the Uniswap protocol. So we've known that it looked like the SEC had been thinking about DEXs and even talking to big DEXs for quite some time. This meant, just given the way the SEC under the current executive branch operates, probably they would go after DEXs at some point if they could. And now it seems like more and more people are talking about this. Here's a post from this poster whose profile says they're currently at A16Z. A16Z Crypto, and previously a partner at Latham and Watkins. If you don't know, that's a big firm, a big law firm. It says, been advising crypto founders 7+ years, write about decentralization, tokens, and more. So A16Z Crypto, probably pretty engaged in crypto, previous partner at Latham and Watkins, where, I'm guessing that's part of this advising of crypto founders for 7+ years, probably knows a thing or two about crypto law. And here's what he has to say about it. In the last few days, we've gotten a great look at how the SEC strategy against Coinbase and Binance is going to play out. Here's how that strategy could be used to target decentralized exchanges, DEXs, next, and why those attacks should fail. And he has a great thread here. You can go ahead and read this thread. We're not going to go through all of it, but we should be aware of is the fact that even though he thinks that those attacks should fail, notice he doesn't say will, he says should. He's going to be making certain determinations here and saying that the attack should fail, but like any good lawyer, he's saying, maybe they won't, maybe they will. No one knows. They should fail, but maybe not. And you can delve into all those details if you want, but the important thing here is that people are starting to talk more and more about the fact that the SEC could target DEXs. I've been saying for the last year or so that I thought what would happen is the current administration, they're going to want to win their election. At least that party, the current administration's party, is going to want to win the next election. They definitely don't want it to go across the aisle. They don't want the guys across the aisle to take the White House. So whether we end up with the current president of the United States actually running when it comes down to it later this year, I don't know if that's going to happen. But that party definitely wants to win the election. So what I've been sort of positing for the last year is that what we would see is in 2023, They would try to get all of their big attacks on crypto out of their system. They try to do everything they were going to do sort of before we got too deep into 2024 and we were really in the election season. Why? Because they don't want to alienate voters in an election year. 2024, we're in the election year now. They don't want to alienate voters. And they know that attacks on crypto might alienate people who are interested in crypto, people who are pro crypto, which is a lot of young voters. And the party of the current administration, they need young voters. If they don't get the young voters, they're screwed. They have to get the young voters. They have to get the young voters in order to win. And they don't want to alienate any of them. So what I think could happen is I don't know, maybe this is going to happen, maybe not. But my theory all along has been that they would sort of chill out in 2024. We'd see a chilling of the SEC. They wouldn't go after quite as many projects. They wouldn't do any crazy stuff. They would hold off until after the election. They're obviously hoping their party wins. The people running the SEC right now, or I should say the person running the SEC, because some of the commissioners were appointed by previous administrations who are not the same party, but the person running the SEC right now is going to wait. They're going to wait to launch their big attacks until after the election, hoping they win. If they don't win, all bets are off. We'll get a new SEC and, things will be better for crypto most likely. But if the current administration wins, if the party of the current administration wins, one could expect the SEC to bring back all of the things they wanted to do but couldn't quite get done in 2023. I think it could be they're just taking a break for 2024, waiting to get past the election, hoping they win the election, and then they come back strong in 2025 and they go after the next part of their plan to, destroy crypto on behalf of the anti-crypto army. And that next step might be going after platforms like DEXs. We talked earlier about USDC, and there's been a lot of talk recently in Cardano about USDC. But for the we have to have USDC to pump our bags crowd, here's a very legit point from Matthew Plomin. He says USDC is on these chains, and then he lists a whole bunch of chains. Some of them are number 42, number 30, number 21, number 46, number 38, number 1328. It's a very good point. And he says healthy chains without USDC, Cardano, Ergo, BTC, Doge, Dash. And this is a good point. A lot of people think that USDC is somehow going to be this influx of cash and it'll pump our bags. And it's true that a lot of chains have USDC, and USDC is a very commonly used stable coin. But you can also have USDC and be number 42, be number 38, be number 21, number 30, number 46. It's not any kind of magic bullet that instantly propels you up the charts. It's just another stable coin. One of the fantasies crypto people have had for a long time is that some giant social media platform would integrate crypto. Well, look at this. Now we've got at X payments. This could be one of the most impactful things that happens to crypto in the next couple of years. X payments. It's the fantasy was always like, hey, what if some crazy billionaire? What if he's the richest guy in the world? I guess as of this week, he's like the second richest guy in the world. I think the Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy guy is the richest now, as of like last week or something. What if the second richest guy in the world bought a giant platform like Twitter and had this plan of turning it into the X app or the everything app, in this case called the X app. And part of his plan was to attach a crypto wallet to every single address and just let people transact crypto directly on the website. This could be one of those crazy mass adoption mainstreaming events that we've always fantasized about. This could be extremely impactful. It could be nothing. It could turn out to be something that nobody actually wants to use. We don't know, but it could be one of those giant mainstream adoption events. This could be that moment when all of a sudden everyone's grandma has this easy route to start using crypto. It could be one of those things. keep your fingers crossed that Cardano's included. This is Elon Musk we're talking about here. He's a crazy man. We don't know. It could be that Doge is the only coin involved. It could be that it's just Bitcoin. It could be Bitcoin, ETH, and Doge and nothing else ever. We don't know. So keep your fingers crossed that if this goes down, it's well executed and that Cardano's actually involved. Here's the other thing that could be extremely impactful over like the next year for crypto. And this is something that a lot of people are looking past. There was a lot of coverage recently of the oral arguments in the SEC v. Coinbase case, and we'll probably talk about that on a different day. But something that happened in the shadow of the SEC versus Coinbase case is maybe something that could be more impactful long term to all of crypto. So this was the case before the U.S. Supreme Court that is expected to overturn the Chevron doctrine. SEC overreach with regard to crypto was used in oral arguments as an example of the kind of policy gridlock created by the Chevron doctrine. You can read about that on page 20 of the actual case. The Chevron doctrine is something that's been with us since 1984 and basically dictates that courts should defer to an agency's reasonable interpretation of an ambiguous statute. This is problematic because it's basically saying that courts should defer to Gary Gensler on crypto. Problem for us. The beautiful thing is that not a single tear will be shed in crypto if the Supreme Court of the United States says that judges no longer have to give deference to the current SEC's reasonable, in air quotes, interpretation of crypto law. Here's an actual shot of the Supreme Court wearing their cyberpunk masks during the executive branch's oral argument, more like cyberpunk executioner masks. Because the SEC realized that the Supreme Court, given its membership, will not be extremely persuaded by the SEC's or by the executive branch's arguments here. And to be fair, and this wasn't this case actually involved something totally outside of crypto. I don't want to mislead you. This case involved some issues with some fisheries, but it was the same. It was this question about this question about the Chevron doctrine that will be pretty impactful for crypto. I think Vivek Ramaswamy put it well here. He said, the administrative state is fundamentally unconstitutional and it's time to shut it down. If the Supreme Court overturns Chevron deference, as today's oral arguments suggest they are poised to do, this could be the single greatest advance for liberty and self-governance in decades. So Vivek obviously had said before he dropped out of the presidential race, he said that he would have fired, the entire federal bureaucracy, some gigantic portion of it, put them all to work doing different stuff or just fire them outright. He wants to get rid of the entire federal bureaucracy. I don't know if that's the right move exactly, but I think he's right. We've reached this point of federal bureaucratic overreach where even the courts must give deference to the bureaucracy. Think about that. We have this fundamental separation of powers thing, but then, how long ago did I say it was? How long ago was it? It was how long has it been with us? The Chevron doctrine has been with us since 1984. Since 1984, we've had this thing. The courts actually must give deference to the reasonable judgment, reasonable decisions of the executive branch. Does that sound like separation of powers to you? It doesn't sound like it to me. I think maybe it's time for us to experiment with what US federal governance would look like without that deference. This could be huge for crypto because all of a sudden the SEC goes in front of a federal judge on a crypto case, and the federal judge doesn't have to give any deference to the SEC's opinion. They could just hear the arguments and decide what they think is best. That sounds a lot more like separation of powers to me, and it would definitely be a lot better for crypto. I hope you had a great week. I hope you got out and did fun outdoor things. You didn't just watch the charts. Hope you did something better, something more real life than that. Hope you're looking forward to a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.